this all comes back to the same thing of having having a purpose in life, having when you go to a cocktail party and somebody says, "What do you do?" Hopefully you light up. Hey, Carol, how's it going?
Hey, Rob. Good. The sun's finally out here, and the wind has died down. Hallelujah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you caught me. I'm off the golf course, so that's never a good thing, but here I am. I'm loving it. Yeah.
Boo-hoo
I can't wait
to you.
I know. I can't wait to dive into this segment with you, especially with all of your experience and best practices, all the knowledge you have from your career. We're talking about quiet quitting. Oof. This is an interesting concept, one that I am certainly not familiar with for me. The quiet quitting is doing the bare minimum just to get by from your job. That's sort of what quiet quitting is, and which hey, look, that's pretty easy to define, right? Quiet quitting is when you're just kind of getting by.
Yeah,
right? And so for me, this is a sad day when we're talking about this, but I want to really get your expertise on this. I really respect your opinions on these kind of subjects. So go ahead and take us off and kick us off here, and then I'll add color when when you want me to.
Yeah. Let me just put a point on, aside from the bare minimum. So basically, you're not going above and beyond to do anything. So I think, first of all, quiet quitting is a new name. It's not a new thing. Okay, this has been a thing since. You got into the business 40 years ago. I got into the business over 30 years ago. And before each of us got into the business, I'm pretty sure about that, right? Somebody's just given it a name that has taken off, right? It's like the new buzzword. And the good thing about that is we can actually just look at it and talk about it. But, I think that as I was reading this article that you sent me, it was a blog post from a young woman who works for HubSpot. And first of all, since you and I have both been in sales for so many years, decades and decades, that would never fly at a company in sales. You would get your ass booted out of there, fired, put on a plan so fast if that's how you were managing your job. It also probably is not going to work in a startup. You're too visible in a startup. People know what work other people are doing. So, the problem I see with the article is, in many things like this, is people aren't qualifying what they're talking about, right? So, yes, is it happening with people who are on a salary and aren't commission-based and aren't at a startup? Sure, I'm sure it is. It's been going on, like we said, forever.
Yeah.
However, do people just care that little about their careers? Is one thing. I have said time and time again, because of the work I do, this is a leadership problem. Okay? This comes directly out of the CEO. People don't leave companies, they leave managers. So if your managers aren't taking care of you, and again, that has to come from the very top levels of the company, what do you expect? People get pissed off. Their manager, kicked them like a dog today, figuratively speaking. And they just say, you know what? I've had enough.
Yeah.
They don't appreciate me. I'm just going to do the bare minimum.
And that's rampant right now. And when I talk to the young people, especially in the 20s and 30s, and they are very vocal of the fact that they don't the decisions they make are clearly not in my best interest.
Yep.
So why would I have their interest in mind, right? And you said something, do they care that little about their job? Well, do they care that little about themselves that they're doing this? Because what kind of existence is that? These people, it's funny, they remind me of the people that would not do the extra credit question, right? The test is done. Yeah. You got an extra credit question. Nah, I'm good. And I think that, like you said, there are many, many jobs this wouldn't work. But we talked about overemployment in the past episode, and the same thing, that would not work in sales, or that would not work in some other jobs and management, obviously. So these are, you're right, these are sort of these they're I hate that word niche, but they're sort of the niche jobs, whatever they could be, that you can kind of get away with this. But that's what I would say, Carol. That's back to you on this. But I would say, do they care that little about themselves?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I believe that, when I've said this before, I'm sure on one of our shows, more than that, but I think that, when people take a job, they're accepting the job. So there has to be some accountability.
And everything that comes with that job. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. Have companies pulled bait and switches on people? Oh, yeah. I've seen it. You've seen it. That is not new. Okay. You get a call from a sales rep I placed zillion years ago, right? Well, they just took my biggest account away and gave it to somebody else.
Sorry.
Gosh, how long do you think it's going to be till you quit? Like, not quiet quit, but actually quit. Go find a new job.
I'm out of here. Yeah.
Right. Or, the old, this is what your territory is. And you start the job, and all of a sudden your manager that you're reporting to says, well, actually, that's not exactly how it's going to look. It's going to be this way. Can you blame anybody for wanting to think, I can't believe they just did this to me? And I would always say, like, in whose benefit is it for you to pull a bait and switch on a sales guy, or anybody for that matter?
Right.
But especially a salesperson who is so money motivated.
Right. It's crazy. It's great. But it goes back, Carol, this is culture, right? So let me tell you the opposite story, right? And the culture that when my last job, the culture was really second to none. And it's known, right? It's a known culture that just Splunk was just a rarefied air when I first joined there, and still is. But we were growing so fast.
Yeah.
And I remember the team. We had we had four or five people doing major accounts, and then the next year we had 6 or 7, and next year we had 8, 9, and every year the leader, who I adore, one of my mentors, Marvin Baylor, and the leader said, look, here's what we're going to do. When these new salespeople come in, we're all going to get together and we're just going to figure out, like, what 2 accounts would you be willing to give up for the greater good of Splunk, to be Splunky? Right? We used to call it being Splunky. Yeah, well, that was being. I think I said that, but that was sort of my word. I always use that, being Splunky. In the mindset to give and not get, that kind of thing. So we would go around and we would give up a couple of our accounts. You couldn't use them all, right? That we had, when I first got there, we had quite a bit. We whittled them down, but we were collaborative and we were involved in the decision, and it was just something that was so rare. And I remember I gave one of my accounts to who's a great friend now, and he closed this great deal, at the end of the year. And I was happy for him. I said, I didn't know it was there, right? And he closed a great deal. And I still have, I'm looking at it right now on my bookshelf, I still have this amazing humidor that is just beautiful. I get so many comments from it. He gave that to me as a gift because I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I gave, and I gave that to him. But we all did. It wasn't just me. And so that's a culture. That's a culture thing that it works. Now, that's the opposite of getting in a room and saying, okay, you're losing this one, you're losing that one, you're losing this one, you're losing that one. And I always said, I'll go back to you. I can go on. This is a great subject, but I'll go back to you on this. But the last thing I'll always say about this is, if you are completely embedded in the account, where you are adding so much value that if I rip you out of that account, that it's detrimental to the company, you will never, ever lose that account. I guarantee it. And I've never taken away an account from somebody that's been completely embedded.
Yeah.
I've found another way to do it from somewhere else, or I've done something else. If you are completely embedded and you are immersed in your client, you know their business better than you, all those things that you would imagine, never going to be taken away.
Yeah, that's a really good point. One of the other things that this young woman said, she did a poll, is quiet quitting a problem, or does it represent an employee learning how to set healthy work-life boundaries?
Yeah.
And the quiet quitting is harmful, 29%. Quiet quitting is a good thing, 71%. But I will point out that was only on 14 people voted in our poll.
14 people.
14, yes, 1-4, which is not remotely statistically significant. So
not quite a Gallup study,
right? Yeah. Not quite a Gallup study. And it doesn't mean we should just pass it by, because these numbers still might mean something.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, yeah.
Right. So I think that she talks a little bit about what are the benefits of quiet quitting, right? She says 71% said that quiet quitting is a good thing, right? And I'm thinking, is it really about work-life balance, or is it about something else altogether, right? And that takes me back to what's your leadership look like? And are they taking care of you? I mean, people have to be motivated to not do anything more than the bare minimum.
Yeah, no, I agree. I did a segment, a few months back on News Nation. I don't know if you saw it, but it was about an article titled "The Lazy Girl's Job."
Yeah, you've talked about that, right?
You see that?
Yeah.
And we did a whole segment on it, and it's the same thing. It's like, find a job that you can go 9 to 5, have no emotional attachment to, and just get your job done and get your paycheck, and then go home with no emotional attachment, no purpose, no real legacy, or any kind of ability to impact those around you, your customers, and I can go on. You know how I talk, but I mean, this ties in. I just thought about that. That's exactly the same thing. It's lazy. They call it lazy girl job. I don't know why they call it a lazy girl job, but it was a segment we did, and it was just earth shattering to me that people would seek out those jobs specifically because they have no attachment to them.
Yeah.
I come from a different mindset. I could never do that.
HubSpot did this consumer trends report, and they're finding, and again, we don't know how many people were interviewed, were polled, but the four reasons people are leaving their jobs in 2024: pay's not competitive, wanting to switch career paths, lack of a sense of purpose in their work, and burnout in descending order, right? So I really think it's interesting. Yeah, pay's important, right? I mean, we have to live. And that is always, I think, one of the big reasons people think about looking. But I'm surprised that, and only by 1 point, that lack of purpose came in below wanting to switch career paths. Like I said, only by 1%.
Well,
but
right. No, I'm surprised too. Yeah.
I think that if the pay is not competitive, it is incumbent upon you to talk to your management. I don't know if I've told, I may have told this story on a different segment, but I was coaching someone many, many years ago. I was doing career work with him. And as we were initially getting to know each other, and he was describing, his work history, I go into depth in that, is one of the first things I do to, get an idea of what the common denominators are, and, what push somebody, what propels someone forward and limits their success, right? And the interesting thing is this was probably 2 or 3, I think it was like 3 jobs prior to the one he currently had. He had been working for ADP. That's the job that he left. And he had said to me in the conversation, it was the best job he ever had. And I said, well, why did you quit? And he said, I was afraid if I said something to my boss about any of the concerns I had to try to fix them, he'd think I was looking for a job and fire me.
Wow.
That's a pretty close to a quote.
Wow.
And I thought, wow. How does, I mean, that circles us back to not having a culture of feedback and all the other things that we talk about. But, this is not the way to handle things, people.
You really need to wake up. Leadership has to wake up, and
yeah,
and it's going to be it's going to be real bloody because these kids coming up right now, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit, right? They're going to take care of themselves a little better than we did. And they're mindful of that, which I respect and love that for them. That they are concerned about their mental health. They're concerned about their life work balance. And I see it I have reverse mentors in their 20s and 30s, and we talk about that. And people around me that are in that age, I applaud them. I applaud that generation for having that, having that perspective. But we've got to get to the point where they're invested emotionally in our vision and our mission as leaders. We've got to figure out a way to do that. I don't know if you're familiar. I talk about this a lot about the Harvard University 85-year study on happiness. You heard about this?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So they followed 85 years, the class of whatever that is, I forget. But
yeah, awesome.
I'm not a math person, but anyways, way back. So they still follow this class 85 years ago.
Wow.
And this again, every year they come out with a study. So you ready for this? The number one quotient for happiness is quality relationships. So you can obviously say that's in your life, your wife, your husband, your partner. Absolutely. It's also the relationships in your business, the people you work with, the people you work for, and the people that work for you. And this all ties back, Carol, because if you're doing what you're saying they're doing, then you don't have that. So that's out the window. You can't have a relationship if you just go on bare minimum and you do whatever you're doing.
Yep.
The number 5, before money, was purpose.
Yeah.
So kind of what I talk about a lot is how purpose came in before payment, before money. This is 85 years of studies.
That's amazing. I think I have to feel like people want to have a purpose. They want to feel good about what they're doing in their job, right? And the question is, well, I mean, I know the answer. The question is, I mean, this is rhetorical. Why isn't that happening? It's because of the leadership of the company. They're not there to help you. It's people say, I have said it's important to get your employees together, really, especially if you're remote, and so many companies are nowadays. Your goal should be once a quarter. Now, it's not always possible. So maybe you do it twice a year, all hands. And then the other 2 times a year, it's within divisions or departments that they get together. But as far as anyone's manager, whether it's a first line manager with individual contributors or a second or third or moving up the food chain who has managers reporting to them, everybody has the same issues. And it's really important to get together with those people on a regular basis. Are we missing anything? What are you unhappy about? What could we be doing better? Or what do I need to do? What do we need to do? I say this all the time. What do we need to do? When guiding someone through a position description, I always say, well, how long do you want this person to stay with you? 2 years, which is, 2.5, the average? Or do you want them to stay 5 to 7 or 10 or whatever that might be? I can't answer that question for a company. And then you have to start really interviewing when you're interviewing people, right? I mean, somebody who's quietly quitting and doing the bare minimum, that's been at their job for, I don't understand how companies don't get this. Maybe they've only been at a job for, a year and a half or 2 years, and then they're off to find something new. Well, why are you looking? How do you ferret that stuff out?
Yeah, no, you're right.
I mean, I really want to really listen to what somebody answers, because, you and I both know it is verboten to trash your prior or current company or job.
Right.
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 So I think most, I would really look at the answer to that question. Why are you here interviewing with us?
Yeah. The other side is we've made it acceptable that we don't have to get together. We've made it okay. I was talking to a gentleman that works for a company. They're all remote. And I said, well, how's the culture? Is it strong? I mean, do you feel like, oh yeah, we can do anything remote. We're good. Right? Everything's fine. We're doing fine. I haven't met anybody personally, but I see them on Zoom, and I'm like, that's not it. That's not going to do it. and I remember the most emotional moments of my career were those where I could see people and give them a hug or shake their hand and have a dinner, break
Mm-hmm.
bread, and you get emotionally invested. And if I was an outside salesperson, my inside person, giving me those leads and cultivating that pipeline, it's like, what do I do over Zoom? Hey, thank you. Hey, really, way to go, buddy. Thank you. Or do I give him a hug or take him to dinner when I see him is much more effective and more emotionally
Mm-hmm.
attached, right? I mean, these things, I just don't agree. I don't agree.
Yeah.
I think we need to, like you said, and it's okay. It's okay. Get together at least 2, 3 times a day, a week, and then
A
have
year.
that a year, sorry, and then have a kickoff meeting. Have
Yeah.
a kickoff meeting once a year. Freudian slip 3 times a week. I used to actually do that,
Yeah.
right? I used
Yeah.
to, that's what I did when I was in sales, right? So, I think, that people they believe that it's okay. What they don't understand is the negative of it in their life in the long term. This is a byproduct of it. Quiet quitting. This is a byproduct of not being emotionally invested in the common mission, the common vision. So, they haven't got that oxytocin, that love hormone in business. They don't have it running through their bodies anymore.
I have to wonder, Rob, if that's the nature of the generational differences, because, you and I met over the phone.
Yeah.
Long, long, long ago.
Yeah.
And we built a professional relationship over the phone.
Yeah.
And the first time we met was in New York City that was a Brazilian or a Portuguese restaurant.
Yeah.
Somewhere near Columbus Circle. And, it was all hugs and I'd never laid eyes on you before.
Yeah.
In person. So I would challenge that a bit.
Good.
And don't get me wrong, it's not like I don't want to get in front of people. I do.
Of course.
All right. So I don't want anybody to misinterpret that. But the skill of building a relationship on the phone,
yeah,
is I think it's often gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
People don't, I talk about this in my communication talk. People don't realize the importance of that oral communication.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether it's over Zoom, over a phone call, whatever. I mean, we didn't have Zoom, right? There was no internet when I started in the business.
No, of course. And the phone was how we did it, right? That's how we did it back then. And if you look at now, the cell phone, my phone rarely rings. And I'm a pretty busy person like you. But I'll get, 10,000 texts, or I'll get, LinkedIn messages, or I'll get Facebook messages or Instagram messages. But my phone doesn't ring as much anymore. And to your point, that's a talent that's gone by the wayside. Hey, we're talking about what we're talking about here is having purpose. We're talking about the fact that, this all comes back to the same thing of having a purpose in life, when you go to a cocktail party and somebody says, "What do you do?" Hopefully you light up and you tell them what you do and how you impact others, and that's the whole idea behind living. That's why we're here. And that's what I believe, a life of giving is a life worth living. It's very simple, and this is a good way to give back and to have a purpose. And if you don't have that, I always say, if somebody comes up to you in a cocktail party and says, "What do you do?" and you don't light up and go, "Oh,
yeah,
let me tell you what I do."
Yep. I agree. That's such a great point. Yeah.
Then why are you doing it?
I can't tell you how many people that have asked that question of me and they say, "God, you're so passionate about what you do."
Yeah.
I said, "Sure. Yeah. I guess I'm really passionate about what I do. It's really important."
Well, there you go.
Just you are really passionate. It's really important.
Yeah. That's a great way to end it, is to say, look, just think of that. Think of that way. If you got nothing out of this 20 minutes, think about if somebody comes up to you at a cocktail party and says, "What do you do?" If you don't light up, something's wrong. You got to figure that out.
As always, it's been a delight.
Right back at you.
We'll see you in July.
Yeah, fantastic. Great session. And hopefully people got something out of it. And we always have in the show notes how to get a hold of us, as you know, and how to contact us. And we're looking for feedback. We're looking to challenge us, and for me, I'm not a doctor. I'm not like, I'm a regular guy that's gone through his share of stuff. And I'm a regular guy that's had 40 plus years of sales and sales leadership. That's my commitment here. And some of the stuff might be off. You may not agree. And I'd love to hear from you. So look in the show notes and get to us, connect with us. We want to connect with you as our listeners and have some fun.
All right. See you, Rob.
Bye, Carol.
Thanks for listening to Authentically Successful After Hours. I'm your host, Carol Schultz.
And I'm your co-host, Rob Swymer. Hey, don't forget to click follow to hear more. And please leave us an honest review and rating so we can continue to improve and bring you more great stories.
Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.